So, you want to get into 3D printing, but you're not exactly sure where to start. In this video, we're going to go through the who, what, when, where, why, and how of everything to do with starting 3D printing. So we're going to start with the why. Why do you want to get into 3D printing? Do you want to just make cool models like this? Maybe you want to start selling models, so you're looking at a bit of a side hustle or a new job. I've even had a lot of parents contact me and ask me, how do we get into 3D printing for my kids? Who's too old? Who's too young? What's the right age to start 3D printing? And really, guys, you're making cool toys like this, or you want to make a little side hustle, whatever, no one is ever too young to start 3D printing, or too old. I know a lot of friends that have gotten into 3D printing for their kids. Some parents have said, look, my son wants to get into 3D printing, or my daughter wants to get into 3D printing for a school project, and they're making things for school. There was a young person recently that got in contact with me because they had to do a school project in grade 5 and 6 where they started their own shop and their own business. And so they would actually plan it out. I thought it was an awesome project for school. You plan it out, you spend about a year putting it all together and all the details of the business plan, everything else. And they wanted to start a 3D printing business. Now, at the school, they actually did this. I helped them out, made a few models for them, put some stuff out there, printed a few bits, and gave them things that they could then start selling. They put all this aside. They eventually got their own printer. They got permission from the school, and they wanted to sell the products to then donate the money to charity. Their initial plan was to make a couple $100. If they could do that, they actually donated over $1,000 in just a few weeks to a local charity. And that was an awesome story to be a part of. Really proud of kids doing things like this and parents getting behind it. A lot of parents are saying to me, hey, how do I know if my kid's old enough? Honestly, how do you know if your kid's old enough to do anything? If you think that they want to learn a new skill, if you have a purpose behind it, and if you want to spend time working with them on it, then 3D printing can be for anybody. The child that I spoke about before is about 10 years of age. And obviously you've got to be old enough to be able to understand the technology itself. So being able to use a computer or a phone with a parent's support. So let's talk firstly about how 3D printers work before we get into the 3D printers themselves. So the 3D printers I'm commonly talking about are not your resin printer, and I do have a video on here about resin versus FDM 3D printing. FDM 3D printing is that plastic model that you look at where the plastic comes down like a hot glue gun and it puts material onto a bed plate and it builds up layer by layer, just like this. This is your nozzle that you're 3D printing with. This bit gets hot. Do be careful. Filament feeds through the top and the nozzle moves around and the bed moves back and forth. This is on some printers. The bed moves back and forth and slowly it builds up layer by layer by layer by layer until you have your model. I did say this is on some printers. Some printers are what we call bed slingers, where the bed moves back and forth and the head only moves side to side. We also have what's called a Core XY printer, where the bed stays in place and the head moves on the X, Y, and Z axis. There are printers that can be as low as $200 or $300, and these are your bed slinger type technology. You may then go up to $400 or $500. This all depends on what you want to print. Do your research, have a look at everything, but the market is fairly saturated. So we're going to look at two main competitors at the minute that you will hear about a lot, and that's Creality and Bambu. So let's go have a look at those. So there are a few places you can order your 3D printer from. You could even go in, there's a shop in Paran, in Victoria, where you can go and purchase a number of different type of printers from Prusa, Bambu, Creality, and the guys there are great. They'll give you a hand and talk you through everything you need to know. Now, here we're looking at the Bambu printer. We're looking at the Bambu A1. This is the bed slinger type printer that I talked about before. This is their cheapest printer besides the A1 Mini. Now, they are exactly the same. You can purchase them with this AMS system. So when you are ordering it, make sure you're clicking on the right one, whether you want just the printer or the AMS. So there's the A1 and the A1 Mini, currently at $499 and $329 Australian. Now, these are great printers. I have an A1 myself, and it is my favorite printer of the ones I have. It's very simple to send things straight from the Bambu app on my phone. And for the price range, these printers are incredible. Now, Bambu have a range of printers. Their top line printer is the X1C or the X1 Carbon. This is more of an industrial level printer. You don't need this for getting into printing. They also have the P1S and the P1P. These are all upgradable printers, but if you are just starting out and you want something you can essentially pull out of the box, have together in 15 minutes and start printing, then I would highly recommend the A1 or the A1 Mini if you are looking for something on the slightly cheaper side and you're not worried about the bed size. Now, if we're looking at the Creality printers, there's much more of a range. The Ender 3 is one of the oldest printers that Creality have had on the market. They've been around for years and they keep upgrading them. There's a reason they don't get rid of them. Now, in the past, I have said that the Ender 3 is the best printer for you to start learning on, as it will give you every issue you will ever find with a 3D printer and teach you how to fix them. Now, for less than $300, these are still a great printer. But the issues we used to have with printers and the Ender 3 are mostly extinct. These are just as simple to pull out of the box, put together and start printing as the A1. There are a number of different versions of the Ender 3 these days, but the Ender 3 V3 SE is the cheapest, and it is what I have recommended for many people to start with, particularly if you're printing with your kids. This or the A1 are a great starter depending on what your price range is. Obviously, there is quite a difference in the two in the price range, and you do get what you pay for. But if you want a reliable printer, something that you're going to learn with, and something that is going to give you fairly good quality prints, then you can't go past either one of these printers. As I said before, Creality do have much more of a range. The K1 is the next major step up. This is to that Core XY printer that we were talking about earlier. And then the newest one they have is the K2, and that does come with multicolor printing. So if you're looking at an AMS, or they have a slightly different name for it with Creality, then you can look at that printer. They are a step up in price at $739 for the K1C, but I have a K1 I got for $600 at JCar, and it was very well worth it. There's not a lot you need to change or adapt on this printer before you start printing. And again, you can slice things from your phone on the Creality app and send them straight over. You are going to get a much higher quality print and a faster print time than you would on the Ender 3. This is coming into a very similar level to what the A1 quality actually is.
You could also look at 3D printers like Solvol or Elgu. There's a number of different printers out there, guys. Feel free to always send me messages as well, or put comments in the chat asking about what the difference between different printers are. I am going to go through that, and YouTube is stacked with information on different printers. But if you're looking at what printer is easiest to just pull out of the box, plug in, the days of spending hours putting your printer together, spending hours every day having to use a piece of paper to level your bed are long gone. Even the lowest end printers on the market these days are pretty damn good, and they have their own sensors to help them level themselves and things like that, so you don't have to actually know how to do any of that anymore. But it's still not a bad skill to have. If we cast ourselves back to 2016, 17, or even 2020, they were the skills that you had to have to get into 3D printing. Okay, so now you have your 3D printer. It's all set up and you're ready to start printing. Brings me to another question that I often get. Do I need to know how to 3D model? No, simple as that. I don't really 3D model much. I didn't when I got into this hobby at all. I now know and I'm learning to 3D model things myself, but that's for my own benefit. You don't need to know how to 3D model anything to be able to 3D print. I 3D printed this little baby Yoda, which is so cute, just by downloading it off an app on my phone and sending it straight across. In fact, I didn't download anything. This was through the Bambu Handy app, and I was able to just scroll through, find the file I wanted, and it had the bed plates all split up, and I was able to send it straight to my Bambu A1. And a few hours later, I had this cute little guy. It was also done without an AMS system, guys. That was split up on different beds and different plates to just have the green print, the black print, the brown print, and I just slapped it all together. A little bit of super glue, and there you have it. So you can print anything. You can print articulated models. You can print different colored models. You can print hue forges without having to have an AMS system. The printers these days are not what they used to be, and the detail you get is only getting better. The same can be said for the 3D models. You can find some amazing 3D modelers out there, and there really are some brilliant people with some great talent. Some of these files you will have to pay for. Some of them can be quite cheap, and if you are looking to sell them on, you do need to get the person's permission. A lot of the time, that's quite easy. A lot of these people that are modeling these give you permission to sell them depending on the license. So always look underneath and look at the license of the product. Sometimes you can get that license to sell products by going on and becoming a Patreon member or contacting the person and getting an email to say, yes, I am okay with you selling this model. That doesn't usually give you permission to sell the file, guys. That just means you can print it and sell it at, say, a shop, a market, or even online. So then where do we get our models from? Let's have a look. I have a lot of sites, guys, that I like to go to. Thingiverse, Thangs, Cults 3D, even Maker Lab. Let's take a look at some of these and see how we can actually go and choose our file, download it, and what we do after that. So let's take a look at where we can get files. So this is Thingiverse. Everything on here is free. You just type in what you're looking for and you can go and download the file that you like. There are hundreds of thousands of files on Thingiverse and people are uploading things every day. As I said, these are all free. Obviously, in the way most things are, you get what you pay for, but I get quite a few files, if not most of my files, from Thingiverse. So let's have a look. We can type in Iron Man helmets or Iron Man, and we get a number of different files. There's thousands here, guys. Or we can even just type in, say, a Mandalorian helmet, and we'll chuck that one on the printer later. So let's see what we can find for Mandalorian helmet. This one's quite popular. There's a lot here, guys. Have a look, find the file you like. We can look at scaling different helmets later, scaling different models. But let's see here. So, what you don't want to do, guys, when you're on Thingiverse, though, is press download all files. This does download as a compressed Z format. Just download the files individually. A lot of these will have many files. If you're printing something large, there may be many pieces. So you're downloading 13, 14, 15 or more pieces. Download them all, put them in a folder yourself. It's going to be quicker than having to extract them. Here's another great site, guys. This is called Thangs. So Thangs 3D has a number of different files, just like Thingiverse. Some of these you do have to pay for. A number of them are also free. You can just go on, find the file you want, and download it. Now, I said, guys, these sites have so many files on them. People have been uploading these for years. Some people often update the file or add new versions of it. You can have a look, you can subscribe and follow different makers as well on these sites and see what's new. Very same, guys. Go on, find the file you like and just click download. Now, a lot of these will be represented in color. Here's another site. This is Cults 3D. Now, Cults definitely has files on here that are for sale. Have a look at the license that comes with them as well, guys. But some of these you will have to pay for if you want a specific file. But as I said, a lot of the sites like Thangs, Thingiverse, Cults, even MakerWorld have things on there for free. In fact, everything you find on MakerWorld is free, and you can just click on it and send it straight to your printer without even having to slice it or adjust the file at all. As I said, guys, a lot of these are represented in color, though, so they will have an AMS system alongside them. They will be set up that you can print them with an AMS system or a multicolor system. You do not have to then print them in these colors. You can print them and paint them later. You can set up your own to print in different colors, or you can even print layer by layer and stop the print and print half in one color, half in another. Slice the print up and print different parts in different colors like I did with that Yoda.
All right, we've gone online, we've found the file we want, we've got our filament loaded up. Now how do we get it from our computer or our phone straight to our printer? If we're using a computer, we're going to use what's called a slicer. Now, depending on the different printers, all of these come with their own slicing technology. Creality have their own Creality print. Bambu have Maker Lab. They've all got different things. You could use Cura, which was very popular back in the day. The most popular at the minute is Orca Slicer, and I'm going to show you how to do some things in Orca Slicer. The skills that I'm showing you are very simple, and they are practically exactly the same as what you're going to use in any other slicer. The button may just look slightly different. Hover over it. If you can see that the instructions are the same, if it's scale, if it's move, it can be fairly easy to work out. I will do a video at some point if you guys want, where I show you the difference between using Cura, Creality, Bambu, and Orca Slicers. But until then, let's have a look at Orca Slicer. This is free to download. Just go onto Google and type in Orca Slicer download it, set it up on your computer like any other file, and away you go. So we've downloaded our helmet file from Thingiverse, and we want to throw it into our slicer. Let's go have a look at how we do that.
Alright, when we open Orca Slicer, it's going to look something like this. Now, you can find videos on how to set up Orca Slicer to have your particular print bed on there. But for now, we're just going to show you how to load a file. So, we go up to Files, we go Import, and we import the file we need. Here's our Mandalorian helmet we just downloaded from Thingiverse. Now, we want to rotate it to get it to sit right on the bed. You can have it sit in any direction. For this helmet particularly, we want it to sit on the base like this. We keep rotating until we're comfortable with it, and then we'll jump into looking at adding supports. Now, supports are for the bits of printing that have overhangs. They're the parts of the print that don't have anything directly under them, where the printer's basically printing in midair. If you add a support from the base up, these snap off later, but the printer has something to print on top of. A lot of printers these days don't require supports, so using automated supports is really good because it actually knows where you won't really need them. As long as it's a very slight angle of something to touch underneath and build up on, it will do it. Back in the day, you needed supports for everything. But printers have gotten better, slicers have gotten better, and what we are able to print with and without supports is a lot easier. So we're just having a look at some of the different tools up here at the moment. We've got our scale, our rotate, our move. Now we're going to go over to supports on the left-hand side. So we're going to first enable our supports. We want to go down to tree supports. Now there are different levels of tree support, there are different normal supports. I prefer tree supports, but that's just my personal preference, and we are letting it automate them itself. We don't want to have to go in and select and draw exactly where we want our supports. As I said, those supports are going to go in here at different spots that have overhang. The reason we've selected, or we've not selected from build plate only, is there's areas on this print that will overhang but don't directly sit above the build plate. This means that supports will go in between bits of the visor, it will go in between bits of the ear bit where it will start on one part of the print and then build up and touch another part of the print, building that gap in between. Alright guys, we go up and we press slice plate like we have here. This may take a minute or two just to load, and it will create our G file. The G file is what actually tells the printer what to print. It's the code or the blueprints that tells it where to put filament. As you can see guys, here's those supports I was talking about before. the bits between different parts. This is probably a bit of an overdoing it in terms of supports here, but these are going to be really easy to just snap off later on and come off nice and cleanly. Most printers these days, the supports come off very cleanly. Let's throw it at the printer.
And there we have it, guys. We've made our first 3D print. Now, I have gone and post-processed this, painted it, and thrown in a nice visor. If you want to know how to do this step, guys, I have videos down below on how to post-process any of your 3D prints. This is not necessary for everything that you print, guys, and maybe you don't want to print cosplay, you don't want to print Iron Man suits, you want to make things to take to the market or to sell on Etsy or on your Facebook page, or maybe you just want cool things to have around your house. I've even made the clips that hold my lightsabers up on the wall. My lightsabers are not here at the minute, but I've made the clips to hold those. I've made mounts for all of my 3D prints on the walls. I've made coasters and things for the kitchen. The world of 3D printing is huge, guys, and you can find practically anything you want on the internet. Go onto Google, type in your idea and put STL after it, and you may find that someone else has had that idea already and has a file that works for you. Anyway, guys, as usual, throw your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. Reach out to me on here, Instagram, TikTok. Always happy to take your questions and help you guys as you start your journey into the world of 3D printing. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Good luck.